Welcome to Awakening Youniverse. I'm your host, Belen, and this is episode number 2. I'm sorry it's been almost a month since I uploaded. It was not my fault, I promise. I recorded a session with my friend Cass, and the system that I use, which is Riverside, it did not really save it. So unfortunately, that's gonna have to be redone. This is for anyone that's starting anything new. Just know that there will be technical difficulties, and you're going to want to quit. But I'm so glad to have you guys on today. We have a special guest named Telanto. I was scrolling on TikTok the other day and I saw what looked like a new TikToker, spiritual TikToker. He was talking a lot about spiritual wisdoms that I resonated with, and I thought he was gonna be perfect to bring on here. He looked like just a free light worker soul who just wanted to spread his truth to the world. I could tell he really valued truth and he just wanted to shine his light, and I wanted to give him the platform to do so. Like me, like you, like many of us watching, Telanto's journey has been pretty sacred, pretty crazy, but it's taught him so much wisdom, and I wanted him to share that with you guys. As always, if you want to hear more stories like Telanto's, please subscribe and you'll be notified whenever I have a video up, which is hopefully not going to be another month. But thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm gonna stop blabbing now so we can go ahead and meet Telanto.
Thank you, Belen, for reaching out. I am honored to have been seen and noticed by you. My name is Telanto. I'm 31 years old. I've been a massage therapist for the last 5 years, going on to my 6th year now. I've been a Reiki Master for 6 of those years as well. So it's been a journey so far.
I want to interrupt you so bad because I was like, oh my God, Reiki. I do Reiki, and actually recently I've been getting more into it, but I loved it. It was something that was truly out of this world. So that's awesome that you're a Reiki Master, and I'm sure that you use that in your massage therapy. So that's honestly so cool.
Reiki, pronounced Reiki, is an ancient Japanese healing technique that channels life force energy through the hands. The word Reiki is made of 2 Japanese words, rei meaning universal and ki meaning life energy, so together it means universal life energy, the energy that animates all living things. Reiki was rediscovered in the early 20th century by Mikao Usui, a Japanese monk and teacher, after a 21-day meditation retreat on Mount Kurama. Since then, it's been shared globally as a gentle, hands-on healing practice that helps reduce stress, balance the chakras, and support the body's natural ability to heal itself. How does it work? A Reiki practitioner acts as a channel. They don't give you their energy, but guide divine energy into your body, clearing blocks, calming the nervous system, and restoring harmony. You might feel warmth, tingling, or a wave of peace, and it works whether you're in person or receiving it from across the world. Fun fact: a 2007 study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found that Reiki significantly reduced pain and anxiety in hospital patients, and now over 800 hospitals in the US offer Reiki as part of their care plans.
I am a Reiki Master, I am a massage therapist, but really I'm just kind of a young man who is trying to find his way in life, and I'm trying to figure out what it looks like to be someone who feels very self-aware and tapped into the world around me, and I'm able to kind of see through the veil. In doing so, I'm trying to figure out how to balance the 2 worlds of, living in society, having to make money, and just being very spiritual and being very sensitive to the world around me.
That's very true. Life is like a natural playing field of balancing things out, your job and then your friends and your family. And so then when you look at all of that, you realize well, that's just what being human is, the balance, presence. Yeah, I'm all these things, I'm a therapist, but I'm also just like a soul, and I'm just trying to figure it out. I love that.
I like to work out. I like going for walks. I like hiking, I like to take a microdose, and even when I'm doing my more fun activities, it all kind of ties into how am I growing and how am I evolving.
I think once you reach a certain level of just trying to be on your path, you look at everything as just spiritual. You know what I mean? Where you're like, I am having fun, but I'm also in spirit. I will move on from the introductions into the tea. Question number 1. What religion, if any at all, were you raised with growing up?
I was initially raised in a Christian home. When I was very young, I remember my aunt taking us to church on Sundays, being in the separate little church school for the kids. I remember that kind of vaguely. I don't have a ton of memories or insights from that time of my life, but I do remember there's this one specific day in church where the pastor started speaking in tongues, and the whole congregation was like going crazy. Like, it not going crazy, but like the vibe was just like elevated, like for sure elevated. And I remember sitting there with my cousin Daquan was sitting next to me. I just remember like looking over at him like, what the fuck is happening? And I think I was like 7 or 8 at that time, so I knew something was weird, but that was my first experience with religion. And then many years later, I ended up studying as a Jehovah's Witness for 4 years. I studied as a Jehovah's Witness for 4 years. It was pretty intense study, I would say. We were studying 3 times a week, reading the Bible, reading, different publications that the Jehovah's Witnesses produced, and it was a whole thing. And I would say that I learned most of my knowledge about the Bible through, the Jehovah's Witnesses. And it was intense work, and I definitely developed a concept of God and a relationship with God through Jehovah's Witnesses. But I do remember there was a point in that journey where I said to myself, because there's this one specific thing that the Jehovah's Witnesses do that I didn't resonate with, and they believe that their way is the right way. It's the one true way. And even as a 12-year-old, there was something in me that knew there are people who are born on the other side of the planet. They have totally different lives. They speak totally different languages. Why would their religion have to be the same as my religion? Why can't their experience of life be different? That was the first moment where I started to kind of question religion and what resonates the most with me.
Absolutely. I 100% agree, especially when beautiful, gorgeous human beings live on the other side, and yet I'm supposed to believe that they're not as good because they don't believe what I believe.
I studied for 4 years as a Jehovah's Witness, and that ended in 2009. So at that time, I was living in West Memphis, Arkansas, and I moved back to South Pasadena. And I started my sophomore year of high school in South Pas, and that's kind of when I stopped studying. I was just kind of like out there in the world. I didn't have to go to church anymore. I didn't have to go to the Kingdom Hall anymore. I was just a kid in high school, just kind of coming out of a very protective household, I was protected in a bubble. And for the first time in my life, I kind of felt free to kind of explore who I was. It was great.
That is so interesting. Your soul was what was feeling free. It was just like, finally.
I don't know if you're super familiar with Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't celebrate any holidays. No birthdays, no holidays. When you're 10 years old, it's kind of a buzzkill.
Yeah. You probably just missed out on like common things that every child goes through, every childhood experience.
There were some really beautiful moments there for sure, and my childhood was the structure for me to be who I am today. I'm grateful for how my story and how I was raised, but my childhood serves as a reflection of what I don't want for my kids and how I can reorient myself so that my kids grow up not having to heal so much childhood trauma, so that they have a better start emotionally in their world.
Yes, no, absolutely. We are all just trying to do the work and just trying to avoid what we went through. And I think that's beautiful because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to do that. And after that, were you just sort of done with believing anything? Were you a little bit atheist? I know a lot of us are atheists for a little bit before we truly wake up. What happened after that? How did you experience?
I was not atheist. There was never a time when I was atheist, but I would like to say that I dialed back my religious meter a ton. I wasn't praying, I wasn't studying, I wasn't reading the Bible anymore, but I did believe in a higher power. That to me made sense. Everything in our world is created by someone or something, and just kind of how the artistic way of life, the sun and the sky and the clouds and
the symbolism.
Yeah,
the geometry.
It's orchestrated in such a way that something that is super intelligent, beyond my understanding, beyond my ability to grasp, is behind that. Whatever form you want to call it, the universe, God, the creator, whatever resonates most with you.
I 100% resonate with that. I completely agree. And I think a lot of us watching would agree with that too. Like your ego really just has to drop. You realize like there's something else at play here. There's something else to control, and I need to sit the fuck down. I actually do have another question. So then after that, how did you sort of come back to, the spiritual spectrum again? Did you go to a class? Did you meet somebody? Or, usually we always have a canon event that pulls us back in.
Yes. I went through high school as a 3-sport athlete, and I was just like a very normal high schooler. Like I got in trouble smoking weed and playing sports. You couldn't get me to do my homework. I'm going to apologize to my godmom for all the trouble and headaches I probably gave her. But I finished high school, and I would say that my canon event was tearing my ACL in 2013, somewhere around there. Because up until that point, my entire identity was wrapped around being an athlete. I believed that I was going to go to college and play professional sports, and tearing my ACL was it kind of just rocked my world. That night I remember just feeling like my dreams of being a professional athlete just kind of slipped away. That was the first time where I really had to think about who I was outside of being an athlete and what I liked and who I wanted to be. And I'm sure you've had this on your journey where you start to look at yourself and you start to ask yourself questions, and it's the questioning of the self that the subconscious mind starts to kind of speak back to you and start to wake up even on a subtle level. So that's kind of my canon event, if you will.
It's exactly how you described it, where you just sit there with yourself and you just look at your entire self and you start to think, is this really who I am? Is this who I've been? Who am I? What am I here for? It's like a whole lot of questions to start coming in. That is your awakening. If you are feeling like that, to anybody watching, I know most people watching are on this path, but maybe not everyone. That is usually like a really early sign that you're awakening.
It was the very, very, very start, like the first little seed that was planted in my spiritual awakening. After injuring my knee, I was kind of wandering around life, trying to figure out what I was going to do next, smoking a lot of weed. And I worked at Trader Joe's, and, the crew that I worked with at Trader Joe's, they liked to party. We would party after work. But during that time, I was also exploring with psychedelics here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the appropriate moment to talk about the night that I did mushrooms and acid together, which is really where like shit starts to crack. The night I did mushrooms and acid together, I had done psychedelics before that. I had done smaller doses of mushrooms. I had done a dose of acid by itself. I smoked a lot of weed. I would say that up to that point, I was very confident in my ability to handle what life was throwing at me and handle a psychedelic trip. I'd done it before. We took the mushrooms and acid, and we were just having like a very normal, recreational, two best friends who took mushroom and acid together. We were playing video games, and we were laughing and laughing and laughing till like tears were streaming down my eyes. My abs were sore. We were just like having the most fun time of our lives. And then I think we peaked, and then somewhere along the come down is where things started to get a little bit weird. Decided to go to sleep. My friend suggested like, I'm feeling tired. We should go to sleep. And this was like 4 hours in to doing mushrooms and acid together. Usually it's somewhere around 8 to 12 where like anymore and you've started to come down. So we were still kind of in the thick of it, you know what I mean? I remember laying there and my mind kind of going into this weird circular thought pattern, and I literally got trapped in the idea of like wanting to go home but not wanting to get up and disturb my friend from sleeping, but feeling like really uncomfortable. And I was trapped in that circular thought pattern for like way too long. Then it just dawned on me that like I literally could just get up and leave. And it felt like the most liberating experience because like I can just get up and go. I don't have to worry about my friend. I can take care of myself, and that's okay. And I think that ties into me growing up being a people pleaser, and we don't have to get into that.
I think it ties in. It was showing you like, maybe in like a silly little way, but it was showing you like, hey, this is a pattern that you have to let go of. I agree, for
Absolutely.
sure.
I was being shown an aspect of my psyche, but I wasn't yet self-aware enough to really, like, at that time to take the lesson. So I get home from my friend's house, and
Oh, you actually went home. But like you said, nah, I'm going home. That's hilarious.
Yes. Like, oh, I can literally just get up and go, and that's what I did. And I remember walking outside, and I just felt so liberated. I was like, yes, like this feels right. So I went home, and I was by myself, and I'm sitting in my room, and I don't have the TV on or anything. I'm thinking about going to bed, and I'm just sitting on the edge of my bed, and in the middle of my brain, inside, it felt like my brain started to fry. I could feel it in my head, and that fucked me up. I was like, I don't want to feel this. Like, this is too much. And I really kind of just spiraled after that. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sleep it off. I'm just gonna sleep this off. I'm feeling panic, but I'm just gonna, like, lay down, close my eyes, and I'm gonna wake up and everything's gonna be fine. And I ended up laying there, and I started counting, and I probably counted up to like 800 before I fell asleep. And there's a point there where I'm thinking that I'm gonna die. I need to go to the hospital. It felt like I had two options, right? My option one was lay there in bed and die, and option two was go upstairs, knock on my mom's door at 3 a.m. and ask her to take me to the hospital because I took acid. So,
oh my God. Yeah, both of those are terrifying. The mom one sounds more terrifying, though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I did. I just laid in bed and died. And I woke up the next day, like, I was so glad that I was alive. But I will say, I felt super weird, and, like, I felt very different the next day.
Were your friends cool that you, like, ended up leaving a little early?
My friend did say that he was a little upset that I left, but it wasn't, like, a big deal. I can't remember why he would have been upset, but when we talked about it later, he was like, yeah, I kind of was a little bit upset that you left. And then he ended up, like, being on his own and going through his own little journey that night after I left.
Sometimes when you're under these substances, you kind of need some alone time. It's great when you're, like, in a collective, in a group, and you're having fun, but it's good to be introspective during them and go within. So maybe, that was the way the night was supposed to go, a little fun, a little play, but then the real shit was later, clearly. Maybe that was for a reason. Maybe that was your higher self, your spirit guides telling you, like, you need to be alone. How old were you during this time?
Shoot, I must have been like 22, 23, 24, around there.
You ended up saying that you also realized something about how your body and emotion were, like, disconnected.
Following that night of mushrooms and acid and, like, feeling like I was gonna die, I woke up feeling super weird, and I just thought I took a lot of psychedelics the night before. I have a little hangover from that experience. I'm just gonna go through the day. By the end of today, I'll be back to normal. I'll feel fine. Right?
Yeah.
And that just simply wasn't the case. I went along the day thinking that I was just going to be able to do the normal things that I did, smoking weed, chilling with my friends. And this kind of begins the 3-month period before I was admitted into the psychiatric hospital. I had my psychedelic moment, and then there was a 3-month period. And during that 3-month period, I was smoking weed, and weed was triggering what they call acid flashbacks. And so whenever I smoked weed, I would then be sent back into the trip that I was having that night. So weed used to be this very fun, like, I get the munchies, I become a couch potato, I watch Adventure Time or something fun. And now it was like this intense experience, just kind of stress-inducing and very overwhelming. And I couldn't figure out what exactly was happening, didn't really attribute it to the weed.
Did you seek out any resources during this time? What am I going through? What is this? Or did you just not know? Yeah.
I just kind of kept smoking, thinking that I was going to go back to normal and everything was going to be fine. But I realized every time that I smoked weed after that experience, I was exasperating the experience that I had on the psychedelics. And it wasn't all bad, because to bring in kind of the somatic experience, smoking weed after my psychedelic moment started to really connect me to my body in a way that I hadn't been connected to it before. And this was also the time when I decided to start using weed medicinally as opposed to recreationally. So I started to kind of go down this weird, unorthodox path of healing the pain that was in my body. I started to change my posture. I started to do weird, like, I would like hold specific stretches for like 45 minutes to an hour. And I would literally watch my muscle tissue just kind of like release, and I would feel the sensation, like the emotions, you know, being released from those specific parts of my body. And I started to get really interested in the fascia. I'm not sure if you're familiar with fascia.
I don't think so, actually.
Fascia is the connective tissue between our muscles. It runs entirely through our body up into our brain. Let's say we took every part of your body except for your fascia away. Someone who knew you would still be able to recognize you standing there, basically. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it just like runs all over your body, you were saying?
Yeah, it runs through your body. It runs through runs through your organs and everything. So it's like super connected. And what studies have shown is that there is more memories stored in the fascia than there is in your brain. So that kind of ties into this somatic experience that we have, where we have experiences, we get to choose what we do with them. So a lot of times we store them in our bodies. You know, a lot of people have stored trauma and experiences in their hips.
Yeah.
So that kind of opened up that doorway for me as well.
That's so interesting. It sort of led you down the path and the career that you essentially are on. But at the time, that must have been very trippy for you. You're like doing things with energy in your body. Honestly, I've never heard of that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a very enlightening time of my life. It was too much for me to process at the time, which is why I actually ended up in the psychiatric hospital. So there's two different frames of thought when it comes to what I was going through during that 3-month period. In Western medicine, they would call it psychosis.
Right.
In Eastern medicine, they would call it spiritual awakening. I didn't know what the hell was happening to me, and I'd never experienced anything like this before or heard of anything like this happening. So I didn't have the right people around me, and I spent 72 hours in the psychiatric hold, you know, seeing some crazy things and getting pumped full of drugs. I do think it was the experience that I needed.
I'm so sorry you were there. That sounds, you know, like a whole other experience besides the spiritual journey within itself. It kind of just make you question even more than you already probably were.
I think once you get in there, they obviously give you drugs to kind of sedate you and help you calm down, which I do believe I needed at the time. And then you're just kind of chilling there. You get to like, they give you like a coloring book, and they have like The Price is Right on the TV.
If you feel like you needed it, then you needed it. And that's what was meant to happen.
Yeah. I think it was a good part of the experience. It was a necessary part of the experience. I figured out for myself that I didn't need to be there, and that my experience was something profound and something that, while I didn't understand it, it wasn't something that I needed to be afraid of. Just needed to kind of figure out what was happening.
Yeah, accept that it's happening, really. Like, I'm glad you were able to ground yourself and just step out of that anxiety. I'm glad you trusted yourself. I'm most importantly glad that you were able to look back at that and not, you know, hold shame or tell yourself like whatever your ego wants to tell you, and you just look at it from, you know, a soul's perspective. So that's amazing that you can do that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Were you surrounded by anybody else that was going through this? You know, any awakenings or any aunts, family members?
No. I was living in South Pasadena. At that time, I had graduated from South Pasadena High School. I was living with my godmother, and she was a devout Catholic. I had some friends around me who were also just out of high school. They were young, didn't have anyone in their life who was spiritual or had esoteric or mystical knowledge. So the people that I had around me was very Western mindset. You know, psychosis, mental health, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. Patient, but it's also very common that during this initial awakening period, we almost never have support, honestly. It's really rare that you do, but we're alive. It's fine. When did you start to accept what was happening to you?
I would say that it took a minute, because I feel like I was resisting a lot of what was happening in my experience. And coming out of the psychiatric hospital, I did a ton of research on spirituality, chakras, different gurus, and I really kind of like started to fill my brain with knowledge, which really helped because it kind of affirmed what I was going through. It also gave me sort of a pathway to move forward. Other people have had similar experiences to me, and what was happening to me wasn't exactly a bad thing. So kind of giving myself that knowledge really helped.
Honestly, like the big way that anyone on this path is able to really get any help has been online, honestly, if we all want to be honest, which I think is crazy, but I mean, hey, that's the way it was meant to be. You just accept it and you no longer shame yourself, you no longer feel crazy. And it's also very easy to make yourself feel crazy because there's no one around you experiencing the same. Nobody told you this was going to happen. And so when you take all of this stuff in, like energy work and chakras and soulmates, it's crazy. It's really insane. And then you're alone during all of it. So yay. Do you currently have anyone that you can relate to and talk to about it?
I've been in the wellness industry for the last 6 years at this point, and I've met some of the most devoted, committed people to this spiritual path, whether they were other massage therapists, other energy workers, yoga instructors, shamans. I wouldn't say that I have created a community because I am still very introverted, and I'm very particular about who I call a friend and who I spend time around. But if I needed to connect with someone who has had a similar experience to me, I definitely have people in my world who I could kind of lean on for that.
I love that. And you said you've been a massage therapist for 6 years. What brought you to be one?
I started to connect with my body in such a different way than I had been connected to it before. I realized that there were experiences, memories, emotions that were trapped in specific areas of my body, and those unexpressed, unprocessed emotions, experiences, whatever, being trapped in my body caused pain. So I went through that time where I was doing those really long stretches and changing my posture and releasing the trauma and pain and emotion from my body. And in doing so, it really kind of expanded my mind. I started to see life so differently. It just increased my quality of life tenfold, not having that burden in my body. And I wanted to give that experience to other people. So initially I became a Reiki Master. During that time, I had a hard time connecting with people to be a Reiki practitioner because it's not the most like widely accepted, widely known practice. It's not a lot.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I needed a way in to the wellness industry. I thought I'd kind of back it up a little bit and do something a little bit more practical, and that's what led me to massage.
A lot of people who do massage therapy, a lot of them know Reiki, have come to learn.
Well, what I would say is that at this point in my career, the Reiki comes through naturally. When I go into a massage session, I can bring myself to a space where I'm working purely on the physical body and I'm not really tuning into what's happening on the energetic realm. But in those spaces where I feel like either my client has mentioned something to me before in the intake, I'm feeling this emotion is stuck in this part of the body, or I feel like this chakra. If they say one of those like spiritual keywords, then I know, okay, cool, let me like bring some Reiki into this. It kind of comes through seamlessly together. And I like to touch the body when I do Reiki, because everyone does it differently.
No, absolutely. And especially being a massage therapist, it's better that you touch them and you allow the energy to just flow through. And especially Reiki, it has almost like its own consciousness as well, and it is intelligent. So just the fact that you had the intention as soon as they told you what was wrong with them, that's enough to do the healing. It's all knowing, it's powerful, it knows what to do when you're both there, the client and you. That's cool that you're able to incorporate it. Sometimes it's hard. I know sometimes the places that we work, they're not like new age, or they're not into spirituality. So I was hoping you would, because Reiki is really amazing. Seriously, I think it deserves a lot more space in the wellness and the healthcare space. Absolutely. I agree. I actually am so amazed that I got you on this podcast who kind of relates to that, because I don't know anybody else that does Reiki, at least not in real life. Usually when you're on this path, I notice that people just are driven to be of service. I find that to be beautiful. Do you work with other massage therapists that also do Reiki?
It's on the rarer side. I know that so many massage therapists are very intuitive people and they're tapped in. And if you are someone who has worked with the physical body, going into a space where you're going to be interacting with someone's energy, you walk out of that session, they feel different, you feel different.
Yeah, for sure. I think even if they don't do Reiki, it's great to know that on some sort of level healing is happening. And that's all that matters at the true end of the day. I can now sleep safe tonight knowing there's people out there using Reiki. Thank you for just talking it straight through. You did great, honestly. You're a good storyteller. Can you think of a specific message or mission that you're here to share with the world?
That's a really good question. The last 6 months to a year has really been me really trying to dial in on my purpose, because I think I'm gifted in massage and I'm gifted in the world of energy and whatnot, but like really like knife to the heart, what's my purpose and like what am I here for? I think I'm still figuring that out. But if there was something that I know to be true that I would share right here, right now, it's that where you are in your life isn't all that there is. And we're not stuck, we're not trapped, and we can make a choice to be a completely different person right here, right now. As the cliche goes, everything that we are looking for is already within us. If you want to feel happy, if you want to feel secure, if you want to feel loved and be loved, start the process of cultivating that right here, right now. You can sit on your bed and start that practice. So I think that's where I would land at with that question.
I think we create blockages and limitations for ourselves when we want to be better, and we're so hard on ourselves. But the truth is, it really is that easy. Just today, decide, I'm going to do this, and don't listen to the voice in your head. Just keep trying every day, even if you take steps back. I think where we go wrong or where we hit that limitation is when something happens, we screw up, we skip the gym, we eat the candy, criticize ourselves so much, and it doesn't give us hope. It doesn't give us motivation. But the truth is that you can change. It just is going to take work, patience, dedication, presence. It's all about looking at today as the new day and being in the present. That's very hard. We're humans, but I love that.
The most important thing is how you feel in your body. I think all things stem from how we feel, and if whether or not the home that we call our mind and our body feels good to be in.
Exactly. You have to create that foundation within first. You want to feel loved, you have to cultivate that within, and you can't seek it out. You want to feel security and safety, you have to, fortunately, do that within. Hopefully the listeners can just resonate with that. What advice would you give newly awakened individuals?
I would give them the advice to educate themselves and to connect with people who have had a similar experience. I remember when I first was going through my spiritual awakening at the beginning, it felt very isolating and very alone. I didn't think it was possible that anyone was experiencing what I was experiencing.
Same.
Had ever experienced what I was experiencing, and that thought alone made it very scary and hard to accept. But after finding people who have had similar experiences and watching different YouTubers, like the guy that I was watching when I first started my spiritual journey was Ralph Smart. I don't know if you know Ralph.
I don't think so. Is he like a philosopher?
He's Infinite Waters. You know Infinite Waters?
No, I don't. Maybe I should take a listen.
His earlier stuff was like very like affirming and felt really good for me at that time. I don't fully resonate with it now, but it felt good then.
You're right. I mean, you needed it at the time. Well, thank you. And I and many people watching this probably relate to that isolating, lonely feeling of like, nobody understands me, nobody's going through this. The more that you feel this isolation, the less accepted you feel by society. And it's just like this whirlwind of emotions. Awakening can be pretty rough, honestly. It's not talked about enough. But that's why I made this podcast. I wanted to see everyone's stories because I knew that they were deep, These things are usually very deep. How do you handle doubt on the spiritual journey?
When I was going through it, there were moments when I was thinking that I was crazy. I guess it was just kind of tapping into your own personal power. I think that's where it comes down to, because the unfortunate truth is that some people go through what you've been through or what I've been through, and they go into the psychiatric hospital and they never make it to the other side, right? Whereas you and I have been through our own personal spiritual awakenings, and we made it to the other side where we're thriving, and it's become a part of who we are. So I think number one, it's making a choice to accept what's happening, to surrender to what's happening, but also just your belief in yourself to overcome it, and your belief in yourself to choose a path where, you know, the things that are happening to you or have happened to you are all just opportunities for you to learn and grow. And even if you do some silly things when you're on an acid flashback, you know, it's an experience that you can learn from and kind of grow from.
Absolutely. Okay, this is happening. Okay, I might be crazy, but so what? It really just takes that power of like, but so what? It's okay. And just sort of listening to that inner guidance. It's very hard at first because no one teaches you how to quiet that little voice in your head.
I would say that people probably see some of the things that I do now, whether it's meditation or breath work, and they'll say that I'm crazy. And I look at the way that many people live their lives, where they wake up, they roll out of bed in the last minute, they commute themselves through traffic to work, they work all day, they get off, and then they sit in front of the TV, and that's their entire lives. That to me is crazy too. So it's all about perspective, I guess.
It is. It's all about just staying in your lane and not judging anybody. I think that's also a good way to handle doubt, is just to realize that we're all here and nobody knows what the hell is going on. It's okay that that person's outcasting you and, you know, making you feel a little weird. You don't know what's going on either. You just have to stop listening to that voice. What do you think the purpose of duality is here on Earth? Is it truly as important as spiritualists claim?
Imagine living in a world where everyone was love and light and smiling all the time, and a world where we didn't know sadness, or a world where we didn't know pain. I think that would become a mundane and underwhelming experience. You know, a world where we didn't know fear, or we didn't know these negative emotions, or the other side of the coin, where there was a world where there was just fear and just sadness. Like, what kind of world would that be? I think it's extremely important.
I think it, you know, helps the transformation as well as opening up the spectrum to feel these other things. Because who knows, if we only lived in a happy world, would we be able to then feel these other emotions? I would feel like I'd get really bored. I would get bored. There wouldn't be any like innovation, maybe any transformation. Okay, last question. If you could ask spirits and know the 100% truth to one question, would you ask it? If so, what would it be?
Damn. That's a juicy one. My feeling, my sense is that even if I had access to spirit and was able to ask spirit, what's the meaning of life? I feel like spirit might respond to me, the meaning of life is what you make of it, or something like that, right?
I feel like it'll be such a dumb answer. I don't even want to know it. It's more fun to imagine what it would be than to know what it is, probably. I agree. And I think when you really think about it, it does feel like I'll get the most ordinary answer. And I think on a soul level, we might know why.
And then maybe the answer that we're looking for can't be explained through words. Maybe the answer that we're looking for is actually an experience. It's a sensation. It's an expansive, like, and then boom, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. How do we know what we're here for if it hasn't happened yet? Like, or if we need to look at the whole to figure it out, like, or if it's maybe just non-existent until then you make something of yourself in your life, you do something with your life, or you make it mean something, or you give it a purpose. It could be like all those things, and I'm pretty sure it is all those things. It's like such an open-ended question. All of us can just have all these ideas. What are your current beliefs now? Do you follow a set thing, or you were just sort of a free soul with a free open mind?
Right now, I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm aiming as most directly as I can to truth. And whether that means like not lying to myself, whether that means trying to find my purpose, how can I be most present in this moment? How can I be most involved in life? Yeah, I guess I'm following truth, and I'm following what I'm trying to listen as closely as I can to what each day is requiring of me, and doing what I can to show up to the moment, do my best in those moments. And it's challenging. I'm in a relationship, and I have clients that I hold space for, and I have a future that I'm trying to build, and I take little bits and pieces from different philosophies, and I keep what I like and I get rid of the stuff that I don't. Yeah, I hope, does that answer your question?
No, absolutely, and that's how I live as well. I've definitely, at least the last 3 people that I have interviewed, literally said the same thing, where they look at me and they're like, "Well, I just live, girl. I just live. I'm just me," and I love that. I think your religion, your belief system is presence, and because the soul is truth. If you follow the soul, you're following truth. Thank you so much for joining me on this chat. It was really cool getting to know you, especially because I definitely resonate a lot with what you were saying. You're very young still. I'm very young still, and we still have so much to do, so much to figure out, so much to learn. I know that you were still trying to figure out, like, well, what else is there going to be to do? I notice this sometimes with like healers. Sometimes we heal a lot of people, and we do work and we are of service. But then sometimes you get to a point as a healer where you literally just want to, I don't know, there's like this other part of you that's like, I'm meant to be seen. I'm meant to express my creative self. I'm not sure if maybe that's what you are feeling. Maybe it's not the creative, but I know when it comes to healing, being a healer, we come here and we help heal people, but also part of being a healer means your creative side or expressive side has been a little bit like dwindled. And a lot of healers are not only here to be healers, but also meant to be seen and meant to be creatives. I realized, oh, I love healthcare. I love helping families. I love helping children. I love being a nurse. I love being the one that you come to when you need help. Like, I love all of that. But there's also part of me that's like, it wants to be seen. I've stepped more into that. And that's why I started Awakening Youniverse, because it was a way for me to do that. At least in my head, I thought like I have to choose like a nurse, healer, Reiki practitioner, a digital creator, like all these other things that I want to do. And I was struggling with that. I just want you to know the path will come. There's never just, I'm just a healer, I'm a nurse, I'm a creator, I'm an actor. There's never just a, I'm just this. We're a lot. So it just sounds like your soul is ready for the next to come. You're in the unmanifested for that manifestation to come in, no matter how old you are. You could be 40. And when it's time for you to change to course correct, or to go to the next, you're going to be sent to next. And I think it's very like normal and human of us to be like, oh, but I'm this, how can I be this and that? You're being pushed to the next. It's okay. Sorry, I'm like talking so much. So thank you so much for being on here.
I would like to say that I am honored to be one of your first guests, and I'm hoping that you continue this journey of healing yourself, but also figuring out ways to expand upon the work that you've already done and building a community through this. I'm just wishing you, all the best things, and thanks again for having me. I have recently decided to kind of like tap into it a little bit more. TikTok is a way to heal aspects of myself that I don't want to look at. So tapping into my vulnerability, opening my throat chakra by speaking and putting myself out there and communicating and connecting with people. So yeah.
Yes. Unblock that throat chakra, man. TikTok is great for that. I started it 5 years ago. I am not the same. I completely shifted how I express myself. Hopefully, that gives you more visibility and more light, because you definitely deserve to be seen, okay? You are a really cool person. The work that you do is really cool. There's not many of us that incorporate 3D jobs with spiritual and energy works. But yeah, I'll see you next time.
Okay, friend. Take care.
Have a nice night. Bye.
Bye.